week I started my apprenticeship at the BHP as an electrician, on the Monday I got a phone call that Monday night from an old girlfriend saying, "Oh, are you still playing the drums? I know a band that's looking for a drummer." And I said, "Oh yeah, tell me more." Never thinking that I'd be good enough. And she said, "Oh yeah, the drummer is leaving to go to Adelaide, so this band's got plenty of work. They need a good, reliable drummer. You know, go to the Memorial Oval Primary School Wednesday night at 7 o'clock and knock on the door and they'll let you in." So I went and did that, and you know, I'll never forget this moment because the band was playing "Lying Eyes" by the Eagles. Now, I never heard of that song in my life, you know, because I just listened to old rock and roll sort of music, not that country stuff. And anyway, the drummer got up and said, "Oh, do you know this song?" And I said, "Oh, well, I do now." So they just said, "No, I'll come and play along with us." And then I think I got halfway through the song and they said, "Yeah, you got the job."
You can't hide your lying eyes, and your smile's a thin disguise. Thought by
So yeah, that was the Wednesday. Friday night, I think I had a list of songs to kind of go off and learn. So I was listening to old radio cassettes and radio and whatever to find these songs to learn. So we had a gig in Port Augusta on the Friday night, a wedding on the Saturday night, and then the good old Whyalla Workers Club on the Sunday night. So straight into 3 gigs, and you know, we did that for a couple of years. You know, it was good, and you're getting good money. I mean, back then the bands were getting far better paid than they are now. I saw the best of Whyalla music through that period when rock and roll was really, and pub rock especially, was king. The music scene in Whyalla back then was fantastic. You know, you had like Sunday nights, all the footy and soccer clubs would do events. You had a lot of the pubs, because the pubs then were locally owned, and they would let local bands play. You know, you had John McCauley that owned the West End Hotel, the then Lord Gary Hotel, and the Sundowner, and you know, he would bring acts up, well-known acts that would always want to support acts. So the work was there, and you know, like I said, you could play 3, 4, 5 times a week if you wanted to. And I distinctly remember, like, you could be doing 3 gigs a week, and then you'd have to practice 2 nights a week to keep your repertoire up, because the other bands that were playing were doing exactly the same thing, and they could be learning something popular that, you know, they might get the edge on you, sort of thing. So it was a fantastic experience. It was a great time to grow up in Whyalla. Well, I guess my first experience with live music, I was at infant school, and I was at an auntie's wedding, and they had a wedding band there, and I kind of got a little bit mesmerised by the drums and the drummer. And then a few years later, you know, you might remember Ballroom Blitz come out, and I was sort of taken by the shuffle beat that's at the start of that, and yeah, just always sort of wanted to play drums, and got a drum kit at 12 for Christmas or something like that, and then it kind of went from there. I used to drive the neighbours mad because I would religiously practice for 2 hours a day after school and then after work and that before getting into bands, and yeah, it's got to where I am today. It's reward for effort. That's what it comes down to. Too much these days, there's people after instant gratification. Instant gratification only lasts a certain amount of time, but if you really you know, put the effort in to polish your craft, you know, it's more sustainable, in my opinion. You've got to put those 10,000 hours of practice in to get the success, and you know, there's no argument with that. Now, one of the things that I try to get through to young musicians is like, be practiced, be polished, be professional. Because if you don't put that effort in, and you get to a show and you only half know what you're doing and whatever, you're going to be stressing about, I'm going to make a mistake, I'm going to screw up and whatever. But if you've got all that down pat, you know your equipment, you've got it set up, you've done a sound check and whatever, all you got to deal with is entertaining and worry about things that may never happen. So I think people are going in half cocked, not ready, and then they make a mistake, and oh my God, I've made a mistake, and then it can all go downhill. But and it comes down to the 10,000 hour rule again. Be practiced, be polished, be professional. But being in a band, it's a very unique experience, and it's difficult to explain to someone that's perhaps not been there, because you want to attract people out, and people have had a shitty week, and for an hour or two or three or four, you can change their night, their feelings for a few hours. Then they're having a great time, and then it's a great opportunity to have an influence on people. Being in a band isn't about me, it isn't about the singer, it isn't about the guitarist, it's about what they do together to provide that entertainment value. There's some really good front people in Whyalla, like Alex Robbins is one, and he can make himself the centre of attention, supported by the band, but the band as a whole are what it's all about to me. And I always say, you want to be in a band that you can be bigger than the sum of your parts. So you bring the 3 members or 4 members or 5 members together, and something happens and you become something bigger than that. Because I had the opportunity to play so many gigs at a young age, you quickly learn that not everyone's going to be a fan, and you just got to deal with that. There's always someone that wants to complain, it's too loud, it's not this, it's not that, why don't you do this, where's Kaysan, all that sort of stuff. But, enjoy what you do. It's good to be in a band where you've got such a big repertoire that if someone doesn't like something, you can turn it on its head and go in a different direction and try and please them. But that only comes through the lived experience, the practice, and experience, really. There's nothing like getting out and seeing a real drummer working. It'd be good for some of these guys new drummers to find a mentor. I've certainly done a little bit of mentoring, but I'm finding it's a little harder these days because people sort of just want to go on and they see their favourite drummer playing in a huge arena somewhere, like really getting into the kit. You can't play like that when you're playing in a little pub, and that's a really good message, and that you've got to teach some of these guys, that you've got to play to the room and things like that. So, so there's sort of that. It's learn your basics, and don't be shy about learning your basic stuff. It's boring, it is, but it's important. Practice is one thing. But the other thing I refer to is that, I said, I've had a shoulder reconstruction, and I believe in hindsight that a lot of that was due to the fact I probably had a bad technique. So that's something I can pull on as a resource when I'm talking to a young drummer. I think a lot of new musicians fail to look at their performance from the audience's perspective, and my work in the theatre really made me aware of that. People are excited about having a gig and they get up there and they don't play as a band or whatever, and A, they're not thinking about what they look like, or B, how they're even sounding. So yeah, it's good to be reflective on, put yourself in an audience member's shoes. There's too many reasons for people to stay home, so you want to put something special on that's good to encourage people to come out and enter in that contract that we've come along, we've stepped through the door, we've bought a drink or we've bought a ticket, we want to be entertained. And I think some people forget about that. You're there to entertain the audience. It's difficult nowadays because there's less gigs. I was doing 3 gigs a week as a teenager. You can't even get 3 gigs a month now. So that's how much it's changed. I've been very much over the last few years about supporting young people, because it really worries me that if we don't support the young people, there may not be a music scene in the future here. And I don't know if music was to die off, what possibly could be there to replace it. I don't know.